What's up? This is going to be a super quick review of one of my favorite records of all time by one of my favorite bands of all time. This is going to be Ego Dominus Tuus by Nightbringer. This record came out in 2014, I believe, maybe 2015, but it was mid-2010s. If you are not familiar with Nightbringer, they are a 5 or 6 piece out of Colorado. Very, I guess, musically dense band. There's just a lot going on. They have like 3 or 4 people contributing vocals, just really layered, intricate guitar work. They use synths, they use piano, even like some like acoustic guitar stuff incorporated. Just everything about this band is really dense, really knotted, intricate, kind of tangled, very occult. I'm going to stop throwing out adjectives for the time being. But point being, this is a very like highbrow take on black metal. It's not like Antaeus, where it's just like, kind of punk rock attitude. Like, we're going to play, 2 or 3 riffs and just blast beat the whole time, and that's a song. There's a definite sense of like composition, almost like movements, as you would find in like an orchestral piece. So, I love this band, and they're really truly one of those bands that, like, every time you listen to their recorded material, something new pops out at you. It's almost so dense that the first couple times you listen to these records, you get the impression that nothing really stuck with you, just because there's so much like information to take in, so much audio information, just like flooding your brain. And I think this record is probably the best exemplar of that. Some of their other stuff is a little more. Some of their other records, that is, are a little more straightforward, and that's not to say that they're simple or they have that like punk rock attitude that some other black metal bands do, but they're a little more digestible. But this one is just like incredibly dense. This feels like it could have been 2 records. I think it's about 70 minutes long, so it actually probably could have been 2 records, but it's 10 songs, if I recall correctly. A lot of them are just really fucking long, 7 or 8 minutes. Just a lot. You get the impression that like months and months of thought and planning and tweaking went into the composition of each one of these songs, and so when you combine that into like one record, you just get a really like dense listening experience. So you have a couple like interlude tracks on this thing. I think there's 2 of them, but other than that, you just have these really complex, involved, very undulating, varied black metal compositions. Tracks like Lantern of Eden's Night, Witch Fires of Tubal-Cain, they're a mouthful. Even the fucking song names are, very involved, intricate. And I think a lot of that stems from, I don't know if I should call him the mastermind. I get the impression that he's sort of the main force behind the project, but I'm sure, he splits these duties with other members of the band. But he's just very genuinely interested in the occult. And it's just like readily apparent in the music. You just get the impression that like he genuinely reads like esoteric books for fun. Maybe not even fun. He's probably like a genuine practitioner of a lot of these things, and that comes across in the music. It's just you get a sense of real power like emanating from these songs. This is just sort of more than music in the way that black metal can be, and in the way that just makes so many people fall in love with the genre. So I guess I can probably just, in a really complex way, give the backstory to like how I fell in love with this record. Like I alluded to earlier, the first time I listened to it, it was just like overload. I enjoyed it, I liked it. I was like, this is cool. There's a lot going on here, but it was so much to take in, especially because I'd never really heard black metal that was this involved. I was used to like the 90s Norwegian stuff, and Nightbringer is sort of like a logical extension of Emperor, I think, just taken to the modern. The extreme given modern capabilities in production and songwriting and musicianship and all those things. But, I was used to like Dark Throne Emperors and stuff like that. So when I first heard this, I was just completely blown away. I had no idea that black metal could be this intricate. And the final track on this record, The Otherness of Being, just sort of really captivated me. It's got this really long, droning kind of intro, 2 or 3 minutes long. And then it kicks into this like monstrosity of a riff. It's just an unbelievably good riff. It is everything that's good about black metal. And this riff repeats a couple times, and there's a couple other couple other like huge riffs in this track. It's like 12 minutes long, so there's just a lot going on. But you know, there's a lot of repetition on this track in particular, but I think that's just because they're very capable of like coming up with these good ideas and using them to good effect. By good ideas, I mean these, you know, these themes, these motifs that appear throughout the songs. And you know, when you write something that good, you want to you know, milk it for everything it's worth. And I think that's definitely what happened to this outro track. So I just kind of got obsessed with it. And as I've mentioned in other videos, when I really like a song on a record, I listen to the whole thing again and again, because more likely than not, there's other stuff on the record that I missed the first time that will pop out of me again and again. And that's still happening, even going back in their discography now, because this is the first record that like really got me into Nightbringer. And going back in their discography, and even their record from 2017, just there's so much on these records to love and to appreciate and to, you know, explore and engage with and listen to again and again. And I think that's really what I love most in bands. A lot of the bands I love are really prolific. You know, Nightbringer has like 5 or 6 full lengths and a handful of splits and EPs and demos and stuff like that. So like they have a lot of material. It's very dense material, so you really have to engage with it like consciously. It's not background music by any means. So it's rewarding, you know, it's rewarding in a sort of like intellectual and almost spiritual way, if you know, if that's your bag. In a way that some bands aren't. You know, that's kind of my biggest complaint with death metal, honestly, is a lot of it is just like kind of visceral. It's very like, I don't know, it kind of exists in the physical world as opposed to where black metal's kind of got a more spiritual focus. And I think death metal can be like immediate gratification, but a lot of it doesn't have that same like I don't know, sort of like intellectual or super conscious appeal. And that's why I'm so attracted to black metal and like more intricate death metal like Ulcerate and stuff like that. I'm completely rambling, but like I could just talk about this record for days and days. I love this thing. It's legitimately one of my favorite records of all time. I've spent hours and hours and hours listening to it, doing different things, you know, just sitting down and listening to it. I've listened to it while hiking, I've listened to it while like exercising, working out and all that shit. And it's always got something new to offer. And that's the case with every Nightbringer record. I didn't mention this earlier, I probably should have. Nas Alchemeth is also in, you know, Aortos and Acles and Bestia Arcana. And all those projects, like, to me, Nightbringer feels like the hub, and they all feel like extensions of that project. Not in the sense that they shouldn't exist in their own right, but just sort of like similar, I don't know, similar like groundwork, and then they're building up to different things off of that shared framework. What I'm hoping is that we'll get a new Nightbringer record soon. It's probably more difficult to juggle because there's like 5 or 6 contributing members, but you know, I love Aortos. I especially love Acles. It's toss up between Acles and Nightbringer, too, who's my favorite you know, project coming out of that collective. But I would love a new Nightbringer record because, like I said, they tend to be longer. First of all, the songs tend to be longer, and there just always feels like there's something, I don't know, something like really ominous and sort of lurking on these records that I think isn't necessarily lacking from the other ones. It's just, I don't know, it's got its own special appeal. It's the first one I really fell in love with, and that's all. I'm rambling. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you are a Nightbringer fan. Let me know which one is your favorite record, because I just could talk about this band for days, like I said. So that's it. I mean, that's it. See ya.